So then let's get started. Then we're going to start with the eyes. Okay, so in the eyes, we have structures that are going to be on the outside. They're going to be called accessory structures. Right? We're going to have in here, for example, the lacrimal gland. The lacrimal gland is going to produce obviously tears, and these tears are going to bathe our eyes, and they're going to help us, for example, to moisten our eyes, to provide some protection, because there's going to be microorganisms going directly into our eyes from the environment. So in there, we're going to have in the tears, we're going to have some immunoglobulin A, we're going to have some enzymes like lysozyme in order to destroy microorganisms. The tears that we produce right here, they're going to be eliminated from there through the lacrimal canals, and from the lacrimal canals into the lacrimal sac, and from the lacrimal sac into the nasolacrimal duct that is going to end in our nose. Besides that, what we need to see is that in our eyes, right, we're going to have different structures from the outside. So then if you look at this from the outside, then what's the color of the eyes that is not the white? Then that's going to be your iris right here, right? That's the iris right there. What is the white of your eyes? That's going to be this one. That's going to be the conjunctiva, right? Then you can see right here. So then right here in green, that's the color of your eyes. That is not the white. That's the iris. The middle of it, right here, the middle of it, that's going to be the pupil. Right? The pupil is actually a hole. That's why you see it black, right? Because what you see is the inside of your eyes, and there's no light on the inside of your eyes. That's why it's black. And you can see right here on the outside, you're going to have in there, it's going to be the sclera, right? Which is the white part of your eyes. That's the outside. But as you can see here, this is the outside. But the white part is not only on the outside, as you can see right here, but also is basically the entire globe that you have. You also can see here that there are muscles associated with your eyes. We're going to see those later on. So if we scroll down right here, there you go. You can see the muscles that are going to be associated with your eyes. So we're going to have 6 muscles in there. We're going to have 2 that are going to be called obliques. Right here, 2 obliques. And the other 4 are going to be rectus right here. Rectus, 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 rectus right there. So there are 4 rectus and 2 obliques. The rectus are going to be very easy to identify. Superior rectus, inferior rectus, lateral rectus, and on the other side is going to be medial rectus. And the 2 obliques, one on the top, superior oblique, and inferior oblique. The rectus are going to help us move our eyes straight up and down, for example, and the obliques are going to allow us to rotate our eyes like this way and this way. So then if we scroll down right here, we can see that our eyes are going to have other structures if we cut them in half. For example, we can see that we have a cornea that is in front of our iris. Remember, the iris is the color of your eyes. The middle is the pupil. Behind the pupil, we're going to have a lens. This lens is going to work like a zoom, right, that you used to have in this professional camera. This lens will become larger like this, or it will become thinner like this, using more or less the same logic as the one that you're going to have with that lens that you have in the cameras. So this will become larger like this, right? If the muscles in here relax. If the muscles pull, then this is going to become thinner like this. That will allow us to see the images better. So then this part right here in the back, this is going to be called the posterior chamber. In the posterior chamber, in there you're going to have some sort of like a gel that is going to be called the vitreous humor. Now, this is the posterior chamber filled with the vitreous humor. This one right here is known as the anterior chamber. And that one is filled with another fluid called the aqueous humor. Okay, so then we have 2 spaces, basically one in the front and one in the back. Now, this is the wall of your eyes. And we said the wall of your eyes right here, this is going to be the white of your eyes right here, right? We said this is going to be the sclera. As we said, the sclera is going to continue. It's going to cover the entire globe, basically like this. So, but this part right here, the sclera is just the top part of the tunics that you have in your eyes, or basically of the walls of your eyes. The walls of your eyes are going to have 3 layers. As you can see here, the one on the outside, that's the sclera. The one in the middle is going to be the choroid. And the one on the inside, that's going to be the retina. Okay, so then the one on the outside is the white that you guys have seen there. And that's the one that basically protects your eyes. The one in the middle This is going to be the choroid. The choroid is where you're going to find all the blood vessels that you have in your eyes, right? The blood vessels need to provide the blood to the different structures that you have in your eyes. And the inner part right here, the inner one right there, that one is going to be the retina. The retina is where you have the receptors. That's where you're going to be used in order to be able to see. That's the retina right there. So therefore, the walls of your eyes are going to have three layers. One is going to be the sclera, the one on the outside, the one in the middle is going to be the choroid, where you're going to have the blood vessels, and the one on the inside, that's where you're going to have the other layer, which is going to be the retina. This one, the one in the middle, we go like this, and when it goes to the front, it's going to give you this structure right here, which is going to be the ciliary body. And from there, you're going to have this part right here, which is your iris. So all these three areas are going to be part of the middle layer. When you want to see something, right, what we see is going to be light. Remember, what our eyes are able to see is light. When there is no light, you do not see. As you know, probably you don't know, if you wake up at night and you go to your bathroom, you're right. When you wake up at night, basically you don't see anything, right? You have your eyes open, but it's very hard for us to see anything in there because there's no light, right? The reason for that, again, is because what we see is light, right? When there is a bright day, then we can see colors and everything because there's light. So then what happens is that when the light is right here, the light has to go through your cornea, through your pupil, through your lens, through the vitreous humor right there, and it needs to reach the back right there. What is this back right there? I told you that layer is going to be the retina. In the retina, that's where the receptors are. The retina you have in here, if we magnify, this is what you're going to see. In there, you can see multiple different colors. In particular, right here, right there, because these ones are going to be the receptors, those two. Okay, these receptors are going to be called, as you can see right here, rods and cones. Those are not the only cells that you have in there, but those are the receptors. In addition to these receptors, you're going to have bipolar cells right here and ganglion cells right here. Okay, so then the receptors are the rods and cones, and that's what you have in your retina. But in addition to that, you're going to have bipolar neurons and ganglion neurons in your retina. So then how many type of cells that you have in your retina? You're going to have ganglion cells, bipolar cells, and the receptors. The receptors are going to be the rods and the cones. Okay, so then the rods are going to be for low amounts of light, low light. When you have dim light, right, dim light. And then the cones are going to be for a lot of light, like for example, when you are Saturday afternoon at the beach, right? So that's a lot of light. So you're going to see a lot of colors and things like that. So those are the cones. And the rods is when there's just a little bit of light. Like for example, when you wake up in the middle of the night, right? You open your eyes and everything is very dark, right? So those, at the moment, the ones that are going to be working are going to be the rods. So then how many type of receptors we have? Two, rods and cones. One of them is for low light. The other one is going to be for a lot of light. Remember, if there is no light, we do not see, period. Okay, we don't see if there is no light. So the concept of this is basically to allow the light to go directly from the outside all the way inside our eyes and reach the retina where you have the receptors in the rods and the cones. Okay, now in our eyes, we have just a couple of concepts that we need to understand. So there's something called the peripheral vision, and the other one is the visual acuity. Visual acuity is the ability that we have, for example, to see details, like for example, to be able to read, right? So then I can tell you right now to read this, right? If you want to read this part and you look at that and you don't move your eyes from there and you're looking at that, right? If you don't move your eyes, there's no way that you can tell me what it says right here. Right? You may be able to see that there is some red lines in there, but you can tell me what it says in there. The reason for that is because the visual acuity, the part that we use to read and to see details, is very, very, very tiny in our eyes. So all this is the retina, right? This, all this, right? But we are able to see the detail, like for example, for reading just this part right here. So, and that is what you see right there. This is going to be called the fovea centralis. The fovea centralis is where the vast majority of cones are going to be. You see, that's why it's tightly packed in there of cones. So then right here is where we have a lot of cones. Then the other parts right here, you're gonna have rods, okay? So then the cones is for us to see a lot of detail. So therefore we are able to see the letters in here and you can read this. Now again, you can see that you have red color in here or light blue color now because you're using this part right here. But the only way that you can read what it says in here is for you to move the eyes and use this part in here. Now, if you move your eyes and you look over here, then you're gonna be able to tell me that what it says in here is choroid. Okay, so then this part where we have most of the cones that allow us to see the detail, that's gonna be called the fovea centralis. So right here, this is the fovea centralis that gives us the visual acuity. Most of the cones are gonna be in this area, but most of the rods are gonna be all around it, therefore giving us what is called the peripheral vision. So if we go to the next organ that we have right here, this is gonna be the ears. The ears are gonna be divided in 3 areas: outer ear, middle ear, and external ear. Okay, and that's what actually you have right here: middle ear, inner ear, the outer ear right there. Okay, we look at this figure, that's what we can see right there. We have in here the outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. So the outer ear goes from the outside where the auricle is all the way to your tympanic membrane. And this is going to be the auditory tube, auditory canal, I mean, right? And then it will go from there to the tympanic membrane. The middle ear will be from your tympanic membrane all the way right here to the vestibule. And this is the middle ear where you're going to have 3 bones. These 3 bones are going to be called the ossicles. These are going to be the malleus, incus, and stapes. All 3 bones together are going to be called the ossicles. Besides that, in the middle ear, we're going to have the auditory tube. This one right there. Also called pharyngotympanic tube or the Eustachian tube. Okay, it's the same thing. So these structures are the ones that we're going to find in the middle ear. In the inner ear, we're going to have 3 structures. This one right here, which is going to be the cochlea. This one right here, which is going to be the vestibule, right there in red. And this one right here, which is going to be in green, the semicircular canals. Okay, so we have 3 structures in the cochlea. In light blue, red is going to be the vestibule, and green is going to be the semicircular canals. These 3 structures that we have in there are going to help us with equilibrium and hearing. The vestibule is going to help us with equilibrium. The semicircular canals are going to help us with equilibrium. And right here, we're going to have the cochlea that is going to help us with hearing. You can see here the nerves coming from the cochlea and from the vestibule, right? Therefore forming the vestibular cochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve number 8. We scroll down right here. You can clearly see here the inner ear and the structures that you have there. Again, what we're going to have in here is going to be the cochlea right there, the vestibule in this area, and the semicircular canals in here. Okay, and as I mentioned, this is for hearing, and this one is for equilibrium.